So following the sectoral debate presentation on April 28, the Honourable Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, Matthew Samuda, is here to break down the key highlights and priority areas. Morning, Minister. How are you, sir?
Good morning, and thanks for having me this morning on Smile Jamaica.
Yes, our pleasure. In listing, you were, what's the word, very thorough. You had plans for 2030, you had plans for 2050, I fight against Mekaya Fees, I'm not going to them time there. But you also had immediate plans. Correct. So let's start there before we get to the distance. What is the priority now?
Well, it depends on which segment you're looking at, but I think for water, which tends to be the greatest focus from an infrastructure standpoint for most Jamaicans. Jamaica's first and most important focus has to be what we call NRW reduction, which is non-revenue water. So that is water that is caught, stored, harnessed, produced, meaning chlorinated and filtrated, and then distributed, that you cannot account for. It either leaks or is stolen. And in Jamaica, most of our areas that we monitor has an NRW rate above 70%. There's no enterprise, big or small, that could afford 70% losses. No corner shop could survive, no supermarket, no gas station. So we have a particular situation that we have to overcome. Most of our infrastructure work was done by the former colonial government between the 1920s to the late 1940s, when it became apparent that we would be independent, so they started to reduce investment. So if you think of the Hermitage Dam and the Mona Reservoir, those were built in the 20s and 40s respectively. You then had a flurry of investments post-independence as we tried to stand up as a nation, and then I think the last major investment in a single big project, certainly something that would transform water supply, was the Yallas pipeline in the early 1980s. You've had, I think, little waves of investment, but nothing sustained. So our capital replacement ratio is way below what it needs to be, meaning, yes, you fix and change a pipe here, but you needed to do 100. And we've not had the fiscal space and the economic wherewithal over the last 40 years to put in place the infrastructure that supports our water systems in the way that we absolutely need. So every time you have a water lock-off, the first thing, even family members, and you see wherever, Twitter, wherever somebody sees you in the supermarket, you're not building another dam. And it is true that Jamaica has insufficient storage right across the country, especially considering our climatic situation, where you are going to longer, drier, hotter periods where you do have to store more water for those droughts if you're going to be able to not just survive, but thrive. But the real big issue is that you're just losing far too much of your water. So you're wasting a lot of money in producing this water, cleaning this water, storing this water. And you'll build a far larger storage facility in wherever you build it if you're planning to leak 70%. So then 70%. You'll overspend. No, we haven't just sat down and watched that happen. Over the last 10 years, we would have moved Kingston and St. Andrew and Portmore in particular with a pilot project from 70 to about 38 to 40%. Mm-hmm. Now, that has had major impact on energy usage, for instance. In Portmore, we use 45% less energy to distribute water. In Kingston and St. Andrew, despite all the construction you've seen over the last 10 years, all the apartments that replaced single-family homes, new commercial development, we use 10 million gallons less today per day than we did 10 years ago because we've cut the leaks so significantly.
Well, so there's progress.
Yes, absolutely.
So the end goal set for this now is to work on literally plugging the leaks.
Yes, so,
the system better.
So we went to tender globally. The World Bank assisted us with driving an international competitive bid. We're down to the final round of evaluation. We expect to have someone appointed to take on the project nationally. Now, the NRW project, as it is dubbed, it analyzes where you have the worst leaks first. So what's the critical infrastructure that must be replaced first? It puts in digital pressure monitors so that when pressure has particular variation, you know there's now a leak even before you see it come to the fore. It changes meters to digital meters, so even at the household level, we're able to email or call and say, you have a leak because your usage is spiking. In this area, you're using 15 to 20% more water than you normally would. So unless you're having a family function or visitors from abroad, you have a problem. So there are many elements to it. We also put in additional storage at elevated points that allow us to gravity feed in low peak hours, that sort of thing. So it's a massive project.
That's a multi-year.
It's a 10-year program, but we expect to be about $350 million, and that's primarily on the engineering and assessment and work. Yes. We do, that. One thing I've learned about water sector, that very few things are quoted with the letter M. It's usually B. The only question is really the currency. Yes. Oh, even fewer.
Yeah.
I think this is the reason where you were saying we are struggling with waste, because we are 164, but 23rd with excellent at climate management.
So that there's an assessment done by Yale University globally. It looks at 180 nations in terms of how you manage your environmental and climatic priorities. I think in about 4 or 5 categories, Jamaica is in the top 30, including how we manage climate change relative to the regulatory structure we've put in, the oversight that we've put in. But we do have areas that we're not doing as well, and the only way you're going to deal with them is if you state them openly and confront them. One of them is indeed waste management. So one of the priorities for this year, because it's as much an infrastructural and economic issue in terms of can you afford the physical volume of trucks and size trucks that you need to move the waste you generate, but there's also the absolute need to change culture and the absolute need to change behavior. Now, we are, I think, going to make a particular attempt at some of the behavioral elements, especially within our government agencies this year. So we started a pilot, very small, 2 years ago within our ministry, which at the time was the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, where all of our facilities started separating waste. So you have a collection point for paper, you have a collection point for plastics, biodegradables, etc. And we've made the engagement, and we've seen that it actually helped with the management of the space. So the intention this year is to expand that, working with the NSWMA and indeed recycling partners of Jamaica and other stakeholders to start the process and get people really thinking about the absolute need to separate their waste, because it actually does even reduce costs on the back end in terms of management of our waste.
And what about clean air?
Well, 3 years ago we tabled a document which was called the Emissions Policy Framework. That is what governs how we're going to approach this. But policy has to come to life. One of the biggest challenges we have is the emissions from our vehicles. I get the usual, let's say, sometimes pushback when you say things like this, but we have to move to emissions testing at our vehicles, meaning tailpipe testing. We have vehicles that we all drive behind on the road that we all know shouldn't be on the road. And if you look at the air quality tests that we already don't do, and we're moving to expand the testing network at NEPA, we have areas that are particularly polluted. So persons traversing Hagley Park and Spanish Town Road and downtown Montego Bay and Main Street, Maypen, because of the congestion, there is poor air quality in some of these areas. So we have to target it. We have to clean up our air if it's going to have a positive impact on our human health.
Access and protection.
So that's a discussion that I'd probably welcome a full show on with you, for the simple reason that we as citizens also repeat a lot of the falsehoods that are out there. There is a map which I saw you share when I was coming on that showed the varying public access points. But there's a few things we have to acknowledge, because comparing ourselves to an Eastern Caribbean nation or anywhere else, there are no two pieces of geography that are exactly alike. Many of those nations are fully surrounded by white sand. So we have less beaches to start off with in terms of absolute numbers. We have less beach per capita, which means we also have less beach for economic conversion, meaning you have natural assets that you need to convert to create employment, to create stability. And if we are going to be honest, our misadventures of the past created a situation where tourists were afraid to come here. That's what started this in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now,
By misadventures, you mean?
We had an abominably high crime rate, and it led to all sorts of social ills, and we have a serious problem with harassment, which affects the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who earn from this product. But that's not the sole issue. We didn't also have the economic capacity to manage our beaches. Beaches require maintenance. They require waste collection. They require lifeguards if they're going to be licensed. Now, in 1997 was the last time we had a particular focus on this policy. And it collapsed in 2000 because it was a contentious issue and no one wanted to take it on. We have said we will deal with the ills of the past. We will move from the last amendment of 1973, which moved to a license-based system, to building in things that create access. So if you look at our last beach development of a hotel in Trelawney, there's a full corridor built, paved corridor that allows people to go and access the foreshore of the beach. We've said we will maintain those corridors right across all of our new developments. But beyond that, we've said we'll build a beach park like the one in Montego Bay at Harmony Beach, at Negril, in East Central St. James, and of course in Priory Beach and Padgett Beach in St. Mary this year, to make sure that people have access to their beaches. But it's not a simple issue, and I think it does warrant, a full morning when you're available.
And I will argue for that full morning, sir.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, Minister.
Thanks for having me.
Sir. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, Matthew Samuda.
Up next, architectural designers Tristan Sykes and Naomi Harrison show us how thoughtful school design can transform how students learn and feel. After the break.